Hello, everyone. Now, I don't know how many people are actually going to find this stream because I'm doing it on a different channel than I usually do this on. Um, I let me introduce myself. My name is Kara Bunton, in case you don't know who I am, and if you're new to this channel, I've been an Etsy seller for 50, 15 years. I used to have my main business on Etsy. I no longer sell my main product on Etsy anymore. I closed that business down. I have a digital shop that I keep on Etsy, and I have a big community of Etsy sellers. And I hope that a lot of them come to this and find this because I have a live chat replay. This channel is mainly for shopping, and it's a customer facing channel. It's a channel where I talk about the artisans who are in my group. It's the channel where I talk about the people and the products who are in my group in the Artisan Shopping Directory, which is the website that goes with this channel. And the reason that I decided to do this is I'm going to be talking about the Etsy Q4 presentation, where they talk about last year in review, how much money they made, how much money they didn't make. The fourth quarter of the year is generally where every business makes most of their money if they're retail and they're selling products. And the reason that I wanted to do this on this channel is because I have had enough. Honestly, I'm not going to edit this. This is just going to be an unedited conversation. It's going to be my opinions about what was presented to us as Etsy sellers in the Q4 presentation that Etsy just did this morning. And I think that a lot of sellers wish that customers would be able to hear what we think. And I know that most customers are not going to ever watch an Etsy investor presentation. That's not something that's on anyone's radar. However, I think that Etsy is extremely frustrating for sellers these days. And I wanted to go through this, and this is I do this every presentation. I do my impressions of it because I've been on Etsy for so long. I know what they're up to. But I want customers to know that you have alternatives to Etsy. You can shop on Etsy, sure. However, something that I think most sellers, and I have the chat replay set up. So I'm not sure if it's going to let people post links. I don't know if you can post a link to your Etsy shop or your website if you're a seller and you're here. But if somebody try to post a link and see if it lets you through. But I really wish that if you are someone who wants to buy a quality product that's handmade by an artisan, that if you go to Etsy to shop, these days you have to be really careful. And one of the things that I would suggest is that you go to the seller's homepage, scroll down to the very bottom where they have the About section, they hide it. And on the app, I think it's a separate tab. See if they have a website. If they have a website, go and shop there. Okay. Now, I know that a lot of people are more comfortable shopping on a large site like Etsy, and that's fine. If you prefer to do that for whatever reason, please do that. But just be aware that Etsy has a lot of problems, and they're not very good at fixing. I'm trying to be nice about this, okay? But Etsy used to be a handmade platform. It was handmade. Okay, Bill just posted his website. So if you are watching this and you're a customer who enjoys buying handmade products, I would encourage all of the people who are here as sellers to post the link to your Etsy shop or your website, preferably in the chat, because it is letting people do links. I don't usually do lives on this channel, so I probably don't have the same limitations set up. But from a seller's perspective, it is always better to shop on an individual's website as opposed to on a marketplace like Etsy or eBay, because we have to pay them fees. We don't have to pay ourselves fees on our websites. And people need the sales on their websites to help with more visibility in search engines. You're going to get the same service, if not better, on a website because people appreciate it more when you come to their website. And most of the people who are in my program, I have a program for, small businesses who work from home. They make their own products. They do vintage. They source things. There's a lot of different types of businesses. But most of the people who have websites really appreciate their customers a lot. And it's a little different on Etsy because you're kind of sifting through a lot of stuff. But you do need to be very careful on Etsy. Now, I would advise you to go to the Artisan Shopping Directory website. It's artisanshopper.com. And I have on there a directory of people who I have verified and they have been vetted, and I've checked out their sites, and they are making their own products. They're not resellers. They're not scamming the system. They're not going to steal your money, the whole thing. So you can shop there. But I would advise you as a customer who you might have had a bad experience on Etsy. You might have had, you might have ordered something and then you get it. It says, it was shipped from China. There are a lot of situations where, like, I have a print on demand shop, which is where I do the designs and someone else produces the product. So that's another type of business. So it could be that, but there are a lot of people who are just selling stuff that they buy online and then resell it and say that it's handmade. So you have to be careful. But if you go to someone's actual website, you're probably going to be able to tell if they're a little bit more legitimate. All right, so that would be my first advice. Okay, now let's go. If you are an Etsy seller and you're here, I see that there are some people here. Let's talk about my impressions. They just did their Q4 presentation. And basically they said this was the first quarter since 2001 that Etsy was profitable. And they have not increased their gross merchandise sales. Like, the sales on Etsy have been stagnant or have dropped year over year for the last 4 years. And part of that is COVID. When everybody was at home and had to shop online, there was a lot of very artificially inflated online sales because people couldn't go to the stores. But Etsy has not done a good job, and I'm speaking from the seller's perspective to any customers who are watching and to other sellers. And if you're an Etsy seller and you're in the chat, please post your thoughts about this, because the reason I'm doing this on this channel is so that customers can get an idea about what we have to put up with, like I said at the beginning, and post your website or your Etsy shop link so that they can go and find you there. Okay. But one of the reasons that they have had such problems in the past few years of actually making profits, and when they say it's the first quarter that we made a profit, their gross merchandise sales, which is the number of things that were sold, the amount of products that were sold on the platform, it was 0.1% above year over year or something. It was a 0.1% increase. It's basically nothing. Okay. They were happy because they've been dropping. And I think the reason that they've been dropping is that Etsy does not do a good job of keeping scammers off the platform and of keeping junk off the platform. And there are a lot of really good artists that you can find on Etsy, but you have to sort through all the junk. And it's very frustrating for sellers because they don't do a good job of taking the stuff off the platform. And they also have screwed search up so badly. And the thing that Etsy is doing now, and they will be participating in the AI search. If you saw anything on the news about ChatGPT is now going to have Etsy results in their shopping suggestions. They are so in love with AI. And this is any tech company. There's a lot of tech companies. The investors are in love with AI. It's like this magical thing. They have screwed the search up so badly that we as sellers go to Etsy and type in the title of our product and it will not come up. And it's bizarre. It's just bizarre. So a lot of sellers are having problems. Let's go through my impressions of this because they kind of talked about this. But this was actually the first time in about 2 or 3 years that I heard them say, we kind of suck and we're trying to improve. This was the first time that they actually admitted and said something to that effect. And before it was all just, oh, don't worry about it. Everything's great. Everything's great. Etsy has been making their money for the past 3 or 4 years off of fees that they charge to sellers, not on the merchandise sales that they make. It's just Etsy doesn't make any money from merchandise sales. Let me clarify that. But the fees that they charge us, including listing fees, advertising. They're talking about ads. They get a lot of money from ads. When we run Etsy ads, we don't get to decide how much we're spending on each click. We don't get to decide what keywords we're targeting. It's a very weird system, and I would say a rigged system, because you basically give your money to Etsy and then they spend it and they don't tell you what they're going to spend it on or how much they're going to spend. And one of the things that I was a little irritated by today was that they mentioned that again, that they said that Etsy has a lot of money that they don't spend, that people say, oh, I have a $10 ad budget today. And Etsy wants to spend every penny of that because it costs them nothing to just put an ad up. So that's pure profit for Etsy. So the profits that Etsy has made in the past few years have really been on the backs of sellers, and it hasn't increased our sales. I'll just put it that way. It has not helped us make more money as sellers or sell more products. It's all based on fees. So it's not good. Okay. So basically what Etsy is trying to do, and they talked about this, is that they want to really push people to the app, because they say that people who use the app stay on the app more, they spend more, and they also click on the homepage more because of this AI search that they're using. So Etsy doesn't want you to go to Etsy and search. They want you to go and click buttons. And this has been going on for a few years. And like I said, the search is terrible anyway. So what can you do? But just be aware that Etsy is trying to guide you down the garden. Like, they're going to take you by the hand and tell you what to click on. So if you're willing to get in there and really dig around, you're going to find some good stuff. But otherwise, you're going to be shown the same stuff everybody else is. It's very irritating. Yeah, as Bill says, when it's more expensive for us sellers, it's more expensive for buyers. That is absolutely true. And another thing, another thing to keep in mind if you are a customer is that when you go to someone's website, the prices might be better, because a lot of times when we sell on platforms, you have to increase the prices to take it, to take the fees into account, and it can get expensive. I'm not going to get, oh my gosh, I feel like I have something in my throat. It's very irritating. Hold on. I'll have a little cup of tea. I'll take a sip of my tea. I don't know if that's going to help, but anyway, basically what Etsy is going to do, and this is for the sellers who are here. If you didn't watch the presentation, they basically said they're going to start focusing on getting people to discover Etsy. Let me find the thing. Of course, I get a coughing fit right in the middle of this. Okay. I took so many notes. And one of the things that they said is that the AI is great. Search is great. And customer service is great. Oh my gosh. Etsy does not have, this is something else. Etsy does not have a phone number that you can call. So a lot of times sellers who are having problems, something else Etsy does is they'll shut your shop down for no reason. Sometimes there is a reason, many times. I do apologize. I don't know what is going on with my voice. I want to be careful about this. There are people who should have their shop shut down, period. They're selling things that are copyrighted and trademarked. They're selling things that are not handmade and saying that they are, that kind of thing. Etsy's very bad about not shutting those shops down, but they also tend to shut down handmade, like shops that are handmade products. And if they shut your shop down, they don't tell you why, or they'll take your listings down and they don't tell you why. They say you violated a policy or something. And a lot of times what's happened is that someone will have their photos stolen and put on a Chinese website or Alibaba or whatever. I've had my photos stolen multiple times, shown up on different websites. Etsy's little AI bots will find those photos that were stolen and then match them to your photos and say, well, you must have stolen those photos. So they take your shop down. Okay. I won't say there's no recourse. But I know that there are people right now in my group who are having such problems with Etsy, contacting a human. Everything is done by bots. It's very frustrating. So again, shop on people's websites if they have them. It just cuts through a lot of that. All right. So for the sellers who are here, one of the questions that one of the investors asked after was something about advertising, and are they going to start advertising to younger demographic? I do not understand. They just sold Depop, which is a resale clothing company. It was a division. They bought this company, so it's a part of Etsy, but it's a separate company. They just sold it to eBay yesterday. They announced this, and that sale is going to go through like the second quarter of 2026. And they said Depop is a magnet for younger demographic. And then they said Etsy's demographic skews older, and we want to expand the younger market. So I don't understand why they sold Depop. Okay, the CFO did say that Depop was kind of a drag on their EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. So their EBITDA was kind of being dragged down. I think what happened is they advertised really heavily on Depop to get people to know the name. And then it didn't make as much money as they thought because of all the advertising costs. And so it was kind of dragging all of their profits down. So they're like, okay, let's get rid of Depop. eBay offered a big chunk of change for it. It's like $1.2 billion. And we're going to sell it to eBay. All right. But at the same time, they're saying we want a younger demographic. Anyway, that's just a weird aside. So anyway, they asked about the ads and the whole thing. And the CEO said that you have to think of the Etsy system and how they operate to advertise. And this is their priorities going forward, is discovery, matching, which is matching a customer to products. And that would be when you go to the app, it shows you things. You don't have to search. It just shows you things. Okay. So discovery is when they're advertising. They're basically going to advertise a lot on TikTok and YouTube. They're going to advertise where they think young people are. So TikTok and YouTube, and they're going to hit those hard so that people discover Etsy. Then they're going to match you to products, and they're going to try to drive loyalty by giving you a good customer experience. And then the differentiation is where they say we're a handmade platform, and it's the human connection. Okay. Again, if you are a customer and you've happened to chance upon this video, I would suggest that you go shop on someone's website if they have one, because a lot of people do. And you're going to get that human connection there. Look to see if they have social media. Follow them there. I know that all the people in my group are very happy to answer questions. They will answer questions for you. They will, they have social media accounts. Follow them. Get to know their businesses that way. Etsy, I'm really trying to phrase this very carefully. I think Etsy is a good platform to sell on, but Etsy is in the business of making money for Etsy. And Etsy does not really let us build our businesses on Etsy because they don't have a place to sign up for emails. Have you ever noticed that? If you're a customer and you go to Etsy, you have to click off to someone's email sign up that's somewhere else. It's not on Etsy. That would be great if they put that on there, but I don't think they will, because Etsy wants people to say, I got this on Etsy, not I got this from A Cake to Remember, or I got this from Holidays Lane, or whatever. That's Bill's. And I'm going to say it again. If you are in the chat and you're a seller, please post the link to your website or your Etsy shop. This is a different channel, so I think links are okay. Bill posted his link and it worked. And if you are a customer, please check the chat replay to see if there are links, and you can go and look at those shops. And subscribe to this channel, because I do have videos where I look at products and I look at sales that shops are having. And, we really want you to go to the website and check out our artisan shopping directory there. All of those people are verified home-based businesses. They are making their own products. I see Tina's in the chat. She makes beautiful stained glass garden art. There's all kinds of people who make all kinds of things. And it's just a really good way. The artisan shopping directory is a good way to cut through the wondering if you're going to get something that is not handmade, even though it says it is, if you're buying it somewhere else online. And Etsy is not unique in that. You can get stuff on Amazon that says it's handmade, and then it's not. So it's not unique in that. But because Etsy kind of tries to promote itself as a handmade platform, which it's not a handmade platform anymore. It's a platform that has some handmade products on it. We'll put it that way. Customers tend to think of Etsy as handmade, right? It used to be only handmade, vintage, and supplies, but now it's drop shipping too. Okay. Spring Goodheart says, I'm concerned about the longevity of Etsy. Have been working more and more on my website. Do you think Etsy will stay around? I think it will. And I don't know I have some like a tickle in my throat, of course, right when I'm doing this. Etsy's not going anywhere, but the platform is changing a lot. And like I said, it used to be handmade, vintage, and supplies. And now they've really, a couple years ago, they changed the definition of handmade. We did a little word magic and we made the word handmade evaporate on the site. They went and took out every reference to handmade on the site in the policies. And it's, you know, it's discouraging. And I think a lot of the sellers who come to my channel on my other channels where we talk about Etsy every week are just feeling discouraged, right? Because everything that they're doing is trying to build Etsy. And I will say this was the first time in a long time that I heard them say, we have made a lot of mistakes and we need to change direction. And then she basically said, we're going to do the same things we've been doing. Right. So that's my thoughts about the Q4 thing is basically they said they're going to focus on the app. They've been saying that for years. I would definitely pay attention to the app if you're a seller, see how things are presented. They love that home screen being discovery focused, and the discovery is not search. Did you see this? I call this browse versus search. If you go to a website, I'm on my phone. Okay. I go to the website and I could either type something into search for it, or I could just click on the pictures and the buttons. Etsy wants you to click on the pictures of the buttons. They call that the discoverability. That's browsing. Okay. So that's browsing versus searching for something. And yes, they did say that. I see Janik says they said that. Okay. I have to go back and listen to after the first 15 minutes. Yeah. The home screen on the app, they're seeing a lot more click throughs because they're putting things on there that make people just click on it. Okay. They are doing heavy personalization of emails. They said that they have increased the personalization of emails to like 75% instead of 25%. So when you get emails from Etsy, and they send out a lot of emails, I get multiple emails from Etsy every day, then those are personalized to the things that you looked at recently. Excuse me, the things that they think that you want to, the things you think you want to see. They're really doing the personalization. And they are so in love with AI. They want that AI so bad. So, on one hand, they're saying, and this is today during the Q4 presentation, on one hand, they're saying, we need to do better and we need to change course. And we're going to be focusing on these things to do that. And then the things that they say is the same things they've been doing. Okay. I think that they are going to they're going to start advertising more on different platforms and hoping that that works. They really, really, really they want to focus and press people into the human aspect. Okay. Meaning that they want sellers to promote Etsy and to connect with people. Now, I say if you have a website and you're connecting with your audience and you're connecting with people online, which you should be, send them to your website. But they're really going to be focusing on this is what she said, discovery, matching, which is when someone discovers Etsy and comes there, they want to match things that they want to see to that person. And they have cookies everywhere. You know how you look at one thing online? It's like my husband the other day, just yesterday, he says, I was on Google and I saw an ad for this thing. And I know that you sell that. Was that your product? And I was like, no, it's probably just showing you that because I was on the internet and was looking at that product or doing whatever. And they track you everywhere. So if you go to the Etsy app, they can start tracking your behavior. And that's why they want you to sign into your account. They want to track your behavior so that the next time you come, they can match you with things. Okay. So it's discovery, matching, loyalty, which is a good buying experience and getting a good product. And then the differentiation is making people understand that Etsy has different products than other marketplaces because there's a lot of people on there who sell their handmade goods. Now, my argument with this is that discovery and matching, basically, that's fine. If you want, Etsy is going to advertise. Every business advertises. The matching part just limits your options, and people will automatically start clicking on buttons. And if you're a customer, watch yourself after this, because you'll see, you go to a website. When's the last time you went to YouTube and searched for something? I do, but most of the time when you go to YouTube or any website, they have things on there that you're like, "Ooh, what's that?" And you click on buttons, you click on videos, you click on things like that. It's not necessarily the first thing you do is search for something. So Etsy wants people to come to Etsy and start clicking on things without searching, because they want to be able to match things to people without them having to make the effort. Okay. After that comes loyalty. This is the part that Etsy really has no agency in at all, because the loyalty that you feel for Etsy, you should be feeling for the sellers who are selling you the products and giving you the good customer service. Etsy doesn't do anything. Etsy doesn't sell anything. Etsy sells us ads. Etsy sells us shipping labels. Etsy sells us the fees, right? But when you're getting a product from someone on Etsy, you're getting it from someone. You're not getting it from Etsy. So again, please go to our websites. You can scroll down, find our about sections, and Etsy does give us a place there to put our website link. And they didn't always do that. So I was shocked. When they first said you can put your website on Etsy, nobody believed them, because we're like, you're going to ban our shop. But we do have websites. You can also do Google searches, see where they are in social media, and follow them there. But find shops that you like and follow them. Go to the artist shopping directory and look who's listed in our directory. But Etsy is going to try to drive loyalty based on good customer experiences, but Etsy isn't giving you that experience. The sellers are giving you that experience. So one more time, if you're a customer, don't give Etsy the credit for that. You're not getting a good customer experience from Etsy. You're getting it from the person who you're buying from. Okay. And then the differentiation is the human aspect, where they're going to be using sellers in advertising campaigns, and they're going to be using sellers to reach out to customers and show videos of us doing our stuff or whatever. We'll have to see how that works. I personally don't have, I wasn't super impressed. I wasn't depressed about anything that they said today during the Q4 presentation. If you take Depop out of the equation, Etsy basically was flat. It was they said it was an increase. It was a 0.1% increase in GMS, which is gross merchandise sales. All of the money that they make basically comes from fees at this point, although gross merchandise sales being up at all or even flat is good for them at this point. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Maybe it's leveling off. And he did say that. Lanny said that, the CFO. He said, if we're holding steady or leveling off, or any increase is good at this point, because they've had so many drops in the last 3 years. It's just gone down. He said this is the first time they've had I think a year-over-year quarter increase since 2021. So in 4 years, they did lose buyers, and they also lost sellers, but that could be because they shut down shops. I don't know. There's all kinds of things where they'll give you a number, and this is not just Etsy, it's for any presentation. If someone gives you a number, you need to look at what's actually behind that, because it could mean any number of things. But they did lose buyers. And I think part of that is the frustration of being on the platform and not being able to search and find what you're looking for. It's very aggravating. So I don't know. I don't know what is ahead. I don't think that there was nothing mind blowing. There was nothing like, "Ooh, this is great," that I saw out of this presentation. Jan says, I'm more concerned about their focus on younger buyers. I personally don't understand that. But okay. I mean, I consider my kids younger buyers. They're in their late 20s, early 30s, and my daughter actually recently bought something on Etsy, and it was something that I know is a scam a lot of the time. And I'll say it, it's crochet patterns. She bought crochet patterns on Etsy. And the problem with that is that there are a lot of people selling AI crochet patterns that don't work. And they go to Chat GPT or whatever AI engine and say, make me a crochet pattern. and it spits something out, but it doesn't work. And then they're selling them. And this is what I'm saying. You need to be really careful. So she said, I bought some crochet patterns on Etsy, and I was like, ugh. And I didn't want to say, oh my God. But I said, did you check out the stores beforehand? And she said, yes, she knows about that. She went and looked at the reviews, and she looked at the pictures that people had posted to show their finished projects. So there are ways that you can tell, but please, please, please don't fall for something like that. Just do your due diligence. And if there is a website and social media that you can check out, you can usually get a pretty good idea of whether a seller is legitimate or not. And Jan says there are a lot of 3D printer files that are bad also. So you do have to be really careful. You really have to be careful. But if you, like I said, like she went and looked at the pictures of in the reviews that people said, yes, this pattern worked. Here's my project, that you can get an idea about whether something is legitimate or not. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with this presentation. And at one point, I thought it was interesting. One of the investors asked Kruti and Lanny, I have to remember their names because they're both relatively new, something about the ad spend on offsite, like the AI chat, or no, I think it was ad spend on deep. It was a question with multiple pieces. But they looked at each other and kind of rolled their eyes. And I thought that was interesting. I thought it was kind of like we're getting asked this again. So it's an interesting thing. But I do think that this was I know that this was the first time that they actually said, we have screwed up, and not in these words, but they essentially said, we have been screwing up and we know that, and we need to get better at doing things. So there's that. They're aware that they need to make some changes. Whether they make those changes or not, or whether the changes that they make are going to fix the problems that sellers see, is a different issue. So that's all. So I didn't have a lot to say about this. It was a little underwhelming, this presentation. But yeah, if you are a customer, I would strongly suggest that when you go to Etsy or any platform, if you go to Amazon, if you go to eBay, if you're looking for an independent seller, then do your due diligence, read the reviews. There's people in the chat saying they always read the reviews. It's just I can't tell you how many times I've seen people leave a bad review because they say, I should have read the reviews first. Yeah. And there's lots of bad reviews there. So if you read that, believe it. If someone gives someone a bad review, and there's a lot of people leaving the same bad review for the same reason, then believe it. Don't buy from that person. But please go look at our websites. It's just always better to buy from an independent seller's website. And does anyone in the chat, as sellers, do you guys have any questions about what happened? Not a whole lot happened. Not a whole lot happened in the Q4 presentation. And the only good thing is that they're going to take Depop out of the equation. So next time when they announce their numbers, you're not going to have to go in and pull that out and say, well, what did Etsy really do? Because, for example, this time they said that they had an increase, a GMS increase, and it was pretty big. But then when you pulled Depop out of that and just looked at Etsy on its own, it was only a 0.1% increase, which, like I said, is good, because it's been dropping for the last 4 years. Every time it's just dropping. So does anyone in the chat have questions about anything? And I may or may not be able to answer it. Are they likely to increase fees? They didn't say anything about that. And I don't know. I would have said when Josh was here, yeah, that probably yes. And I will say, for example, this mug, which I use all the time, everybody who's on this channel sees this mug. This mug was made by someone in my group. I've had this mug for years. Look, I drink tea out of it. but I can scrub this thing and it's still white. this you can get on this on Etsy, but he also has a shop on Amazon. I'm not sure if he's got a website, but there are multiple places to buy things that handmade artisans make. And this is, I will say, the name of the business is City to Cottage. Really cute line of things. And I didn't intend to call this out, but this is the kind of thing that you can find on Etsy if they will deign to show it to you. Okay. But a lot of people who have a lot really good products, this is a really nice mug, and they makes other things, you know, other kitchen utensils. I have a spoon rest, there's bowls, there's all kinds of things that they make that are really cute, different colors. Um, you can get them other places. You don't have to get them on Etsy because they sell in different places. Because most people should sell in different places if you're a home-based business or a small business. Let's see. Janet said, I missed the beginning. Did someone ask a seller inclined question, like caring about seller treatment or something like that? No, I did. I said I did this video on this channel because this is a customer facing channel and I want customers to know what we're dealing with. I want customers to know that they can go to our websites. I want customers to know that Etsy is not the only place to buy our products, and that there's just a lot of frustration with Etsy doing all kinds of weird stuff. So I'm on here because of that. All right. Focusing on Etsy's picks does not encompass many potential buyers. Yeah. And yeah, that's okay. Let me just say about the Etsy's picks. If you're a customer and you see Etsy's pick on a listing, that doesn't mean much. Okay. We don't know what that means. They never tell us what makes an Etsy's pick. They just randomly put this thing on badges. I think they're using it as a filter so that they can just show specific listings when you use that filter. And somebody said that she was listing things in her shop, and they immediately got an Etsy's pick badge as soon as she listed them. So it's not like it's a quality thing. It's just a random thing. And most of the badges that you see on Etsy, there's something behind, like there's some formula behind it. But I had things that they marked in my shop as bestseller that I hadn't sold for weeks. It didn't make any sense. So those are called customer nudges, where they're trying to nudge you to buy. So just watch out for that. Okay. But then, okay. So did someone ask a seller, like she's talking about investors? I might be weird, but when Etsy's client is actually buyers and an investor, investors don't care about sellers. Investors just care about what profits they're getting out of Etsy. So they never ask about sellers. It was always interesting. I used to talk to an investment bank who talked to, Etsy sellers here and there, and he would call me and ask my opinion about things because he said I did good analysis. And he was always really surprised by my answers because they don't think the way that a seller thinks. And I would say, well, sellers have a problem with this. We have a problem with that. And he's like, oh, but wait. And it's a different perspective. So the investors don't really care about how sellers do anything. They just want to look at the bottom line. So, okay. And then Spring Goodhart says, is selling on Amazon a good idea? And Karen responds, Amazon has switched their handmade section so much it's very difficult now to list on and be found on Amazon. Changes to their listing structure and payout structure is not helpful. And they have merged, I believe that Amazon has merged their handmade into just regular stuff. So you can find people's shops. For example, I'll bring this mug back up. Okay, if I go onto Amazon and I search for City to Cottage mugs, these will come up. And then on the listing on Amazon, it says shop the City to Cottage store or something, whatever it is. And if you click on that's under the title on the listing, it'll take you to their Amazon storefront where it looks like a little website that's on Amazon, and Amazon fulfills their orders. We'll ship everything out. He ships everything to Amazon. It sits in the warehouse. When someone orders it, Amazon ships it out for him. That's the fulfillment by Amazon. And it takes more of his profits, but then he's in the UK. So if it's a US warehouse, it gets to you faster. But Amazon has taken their handmade division and kind of rolled it into the regular listings, and you can still find individual shops, but it does take some searching. They never really had a good way to segment out the handmade stuff anyway. You could find it, but you really had to go look for it. Okay. Let's see. Where is anyone selling besides Etsy and your website? Any of the platforms are fine. But I really would, and I have been saying this for 15 years. I've been saying this for longer than that because I had a cake business that I ran from my home way before I sold on Etsy. You need to have your own website because it just is a business thing. You need to have your own website. No one can shut your website down for no reason. Maybe your web host can, but there are concerns that every seller should have, and if you have your website, you take away that concern that the platform that you're on will do something weird and wreck your business. So have a website. Etsy, I would sell on eBay before Amazon because you can set up an eBay shop with a banner and your branding and everything, and it has the traffic. eBay has the traffic, but and then okay, offline. Janik says, I do consignment locally, started fair wholesale in the fall. And there aren't real, there's another, there's not a whole lot of spots. I would definitely have a website and then send social media traffic to it. And you can buy ads on Google or wherever you want to if you want to do that. But social media is free. And as a seller, you just need to save your money. So, and Tina, I agree. The statement from Etsy this morning about we know we screwed up. I thought that was Crudy throwing Josh under the bus, she says. And yeah, I think so. But I think that the investors probably needed to hear that because Josh, for people that don't know, Josh Silverman was the CEO of Etsy. He has been there for years. And like I said, this is the first quarter that they have had any profit, even holding steady, because I don't consider 0.1% anything to be excited about. But they didn't sink. It didn't go down. So they kind of, Josh said, "Oh, I'm resigning." Ooh. And we're like, okay, he finally got kicked out. Okay, let's be honest. He finally got kicked out. Crudy, who was the she was the CEO of Depop. And I think that she came back to Etsy. She had been at Etsy doing something else. She went to Depop and she came back to Etsy. She is the new CEO of Etsy now. And Josh is there in an advisory capacity, which means they're paying him for a year. He's probably in the office, but he was not on the presentation this morning. But I think the investors needed to hear we screwed up and have her throw him under the bus because that makes them feel like they're going to do something different. And then everything that came out of their mouths after that was the same song and dance. And I'm thinking, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. If you're of a certain age, you know what I'm talking about. And that's all. Okay. And then Bill says, I do in-person craft fairs too. Did Depop have improvements under her? Yes, they did. Depop grew under Cruty, and she was able to kind of get the name out there and stuff. And so I think that she's taking a lot of the stuff that they did there and bringing it to Etsy. But anyway, yeah, I'm hopeful that she will succeed. And I know that there's someone, I think it's Helen, who said that her husband, this is like, Helen's like, oh, my husband went to business school with her and she was smart. So I believe it was Helen who said that. I don't know. But I have no ill will toward her at all. And I think, I hope that she does succeed. But when you say we want to do things differently, and then the next things you say are we're going to keep doing what we were doing. I don't know. We'll see. And I hope that Etsy starts making money and increasing profits for gross merchandise sales and not just fees, because when they make profits on fees, they're making profits that we are losing. That means we have more expenses as sellers, because that's like ads and stuff like that. When they're making profits because of gross merchandise sales, it means that we're selling more products and we're making more money. So yes, I do hope that they, they are kind of doubling down on what they have been doing. And it says basically the only thing they said, we're going to be trying to reach a younger demographic with different types of advertising, which means we're advertising on TikTok. I could just wrap this up. They went on for an hour. We're advertising on TikTok and we love AI. That's it. Now they did. It wasn't interesting. I'm not going to get into the AI stuff, but they were talking about using the information that they get from the AI searches on the shopping thing like that to better understand customers so that they can then personalize things more. They all these companies right now are just madly in love with artificial intelligence. And there was a guy, one of the investors kind of pushed back on that a little bit. And they did not give a great answer. I don't remember. It was kind of a kind of answer, but it's interesting that I don't know. They just all think that if they set up a program to run the business, then it'll do better. I have, I have opinions on that. I think that's all I have to say. I was not super impressed. I wasn't depressed about it, but it sounds like more of the same. It sounds like not a whole lot of new vision. But at least they said, we know we need to do better than we have been doing because we screwed it up. She actually said that, and it was definitely a throw Josh under the bus because she had to say that in her first presentation as CEO, or else, because yeah, I mean, you have to say that if somebody was removed from a position because everybody knows they didn't succeed in whatever it was, and there were a lot of things that worked against Josh's, like, I think the fact that COVID created such an artificially inflated online market really made him look bad when the numbers started dropping, but they were going to drop whoever was in charge. It has nothing to do with him. But they really need to back off on the AI deciding what people are going to see and let people search for things and then find that thing. That's all. If I go to a site and I search for something and everything that comes up is not what I want, and I'm not going to come back. I'm not going to come back to that. I'm going to say, this is a terrible search engine. I'm not coming back. Or if I know that not everything that's there is being shown to me. And that's another thing. They're doing a lot of gatekeeping. All right. Janik says, I don't get it. If AI is not help sales, why double down? It's because the lure of AI right now, and this is not just for Etsy, this is for everyone. It's the fear of missing out. And everybody has FOMO, and they're thinking, if I don't use this AI right now, and this actually, one of these investors said something about this is like getting ahead of it. And it's a race to respond to AI before, like it's a challenge with the offsite ads versus onsite. It was like I said, it was like a multi-pronged question. But they're all afraid to not use it because they think that someone else is going to get there before them and then they'll be behind. And this guy pointed that out, and they're kind of like, yeah, that's a good point. But, it is very Aldo Huxley. Okay. So, Spring says, how I'm shown on Etsy confuses me to no end. I have 8 sales one day and then no sales. I'd like more transparency from Etsy about what they're doing for us and how we're shown. They're never going to give us that. No platform, not just Etsy, no platform is going to tell you how their search engine works because there's people who game the system. And it would just be nice. It would just be nice if you could search for something and have that thing come up in search. That's pleasant. That works. And if you are a customer and you've made it this far, congratulations. Thank you for listening to me ramble. But a lot of times when you go to someone's website, the search works a lot better than on Etsy because it's not falsely manipulating things to show you only things they want to show you. Just saying. Okay. Shilling their listing software that uses AI. Yeah, I mean, it's everybody wants to be the first, and they're not stopping to think, is this the best way? They're just saying, I need to do it before the other guy does it. So that's why they're not going to back off on the AI. It's just, yeah, that's all. Anyway, okay, thank you, everyone. And if you are an Etsy seller, post the link to your Etsy shop or your website in the comments under this video once I post it, and I will go and look at your shops. And if you're in the Artisan shopping directory, you're definitely going to get approved. And if you're a scammer, I will delete your link. That's all. Okay, I will talk to you all later. Have a good afternoon. And if you are an Etsy customer, please go to our websites. Just find the seller that you like, go to their website and buy it there instead. That's all I have to say. All right. I'll talk to you all later.